No one in Daniel Grant's neighborhood understood how a simple water leak could demolish an entire house, until they saw the wreckage themselves. It looked like a disaster zone, ceilings collapsed, walls sagging, furniture buried under debris, and water dripping endlessly through the broken frame like the house itself was crying. And right in the middle of that destruction stood Daniel, silent, numb, and holding the last few pieces of what used to be his life. But the real shock didn't come from the collapse. It came later, when the insurance company told him the one thing he never expected to hear. "We're denying your claim. This was your fault." Before we get deeper into Daniel's story, backhand index pointing right, don't forget to subscribe for more true-to-life dramatic stories. Backhand index pointing right and comment below. What would you do if your home collapsed because of a hidden leak you never even saw? The first sign of trouble 2 months before the collapse, Daniel noticed something small enough to ignore, yet big enough to change everything. It started with a tiny damp patch on his upstairs hallway ceiling, barely noticeable, round, no bigger than a coin. Daniel assumed it was nothing serious. Maybe steam from the shower, maybe the kids spilled water upstairs. He wiped it once and thought it would dry. But the next morning the spot had grown, no longer the size of a coin, now the size of a hand. He stood under it, frowning. The paint looked darker. The edges were spreading outward like a slow-moving stain, and when Daniel touched the surface, the drywall felt cool, wet, soft. He didn't know it yet, but a pipe behind that ceiling had already been leaking for weeks, soaking wooden beams, rotting structural supports, and weakening the entire upper floor. But Daniel was a practical man. He worked long hours, money was tight. Calling a plumber wasn't cheap, so he told himself, "I'll look into it later." Later would be too late. The night everything fell apart at 3:17 a.m., the house made a sound no one ever forgets. Crack, 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 then boo. The ceiling exploded downward, sending debris crashing into the hallway. Dust filled the air in choking clouds. Wooden beams snapped like bones. Water poured from the opening in violent streams. Daniel woke up instantly, heart pounding, the whole house shaking beneath him. He rushed out of his bedroom to see plaster chunks and insulation scattered everywhere like snow. Water sprayed from above, flooding the floor and running toward the staircase. He yelled for his children. His voice echoed through the chaos. He grabbed them, one under each arm, and hurried down the stairs as the floor vibrated like it might give way next. Outside, under flashing red lights, firefighters forced open the main door. Within minutes, their verdict was clear. The structure was unsafe. The collapse was severe. A major water line had burst slowly over time, rotting the house from the inside. One of the firefighters shook his head. "This didn't happen overnight. That pipe must have been leaking for months. You're lucky you got out." Daniel listened, drenched in water and dust, watching his home, everything he had built, turn into a ruin. The insurance visit 2 days later, an insurance adjuster arrived. His name was Mr. Collins, a thin man with neat glasses, a calm face, and a clipboard he carried like a judge carries a verdict. He walked the property quietly, took a few pictures, kneeling here, tapping the wall there, barely acknowledging Daniel's presence. Finally, he exhaled, long and slow, and that's when Daniel felt something was wrong. "Will everything be covered?" Daniel asked, voice shaking with hope. Mr. Collins clicked his pen, straightened his tie, and delivered the sentence that hit harder than the collapse itself. "Unfortunately, this will not be covered." Daniel froze. What do you mean?" The adjuster spoke with the calmness of someone who had said this many times before. "This damage is due to long-term leakage, not a sudden accident. That makes it the homeowner's responsibility. It falls under maintenance failure, not insured loss." Daniel felt as if the ground had tilted beneath him. "My house collapsed while we were sleeping." "How can you say this is my fault?" Collins didn't flinch. "You should have identified the leak earlier. The signs were visible. The damage occurred over time, therefore the claim is denied." It wasn't just the words, it was the coldness, the subtle blame hidden in every sentence. To them, he wasn't a customer, he was a number, a file, a cost to avoid. Standing there in the ruins, Daniel realized the awful truth. His home was destroyed. His family was displaced. And the company he trusted for protection had turned its back on him. Daniel stood in the center of his destroyed hallway long after the insurance adjuster left. The house was eerily silent except for the steady drip, drip, drip of water landing on the broken floorboards. His heart sank deeper with every drop. His home was gone. His savings were tied up in this house. And now his insurance company was blaming him. He kept hearing the adjuster's cold voice repeating in his mind. "Long-term leakage, homeowner negligence, claim denied." Daniel wanted to break down, but something inside him refused to give up. A quiet anger started building, an anger born from confusion, fear, and betrayal. And that anger pushed him to investigate what really happened. The engineer's report 2 days later, a structural engineer visited the property, someone recommended by a firefighter. His name was Ben Harper, a calm, experienced man who had seen dozens of homes destroyed from hidden water damage. He methodically inspected the collapsed area, crawling through the upper floor, shining flashlights behind walls and taking moisture readings. After nearly 2 hours, he walked toward Daniel with a serious expression. "Daniel," he began, "this wasn't your fault." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean?" the insurance guy said. Ben cut him off. "Insurance adjusters come for their company, not for the truth. What I'm seeing here is a manufacturing defect in the piping system." Daniel frowned. "Manufacturing defect?" Ben pointed to a chunk of broken pipe lying among the debris. "See this," he said. "This type of copper pipe had a bad production batch about 10 years ago. Several houses in the region experienced similar leaks. The material corrodes from the inside, completely invisible until it's too late." Daniel stared at the pipe, stunned. "So the leak wasn't because of anything I did?" "Absolutely not," Ben replied firmly. "This is structural failure caused by defective plumbing installation. You couldn't have detected it." For the first time since the collapse, Daniel felt a spark of hope. "Will you put this in writing?" he asked. Ben nodded. "I'll prepare a full report, and trust me, you'll need it." A neighbor's story that same evening, Daniel walked outside to clear his head. That's when his next-door neighbor, Mrs. Alina Briggs, waved him over. "I heard what happened," she said gently. "I'm so sorry, Daniel." He nodded, exhausted. She hesitated, looking around as if afraid someone might overhear. "I don't know if this helps," she whispered, "but the previous owners of your house had issues with plumbing too." Daniel's eyes widened. "What kind of issues?" "Leaks in the upstairs bathroom," she said. "Twice. They had to call emergency plumbers both times." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The previous owners knew. They had problems before. They never fixed the real cause, and they never reported it when selling the house. "Why didn't anyone tell me this?" Daniel muttered. Mrs. Briggs sighed. "They were desperate to sell. They patched up the ceiling and left before anything got worse." Daniel felt anger, not only at the previous owners, but at the entire situation. So many people knew more than he did. And now the insurance company wanted to pretend he ignored the problem. Calling the insurance company back the next morning, Daniel called his insurance company and demanded a second review based on the new evidence. The representative on the phone sounded annoyed. "Sir, your claim has already been assessed." Daniel clenched his jaw. "But the cause you listed is wrong. A certified structural engineer says the pipe had a manufacturing defect. I have proof." There was silence on the line. Then the representative sighed heavily. "Sir, even if a defect existed, it falls under your responsibility to maintain your home. We cannot cover damages that occur gradually." Daniel's heart froze. "Are you even listening? A defect is not maintenance failure. This was hidden inside the walls." He heard the rep typing. "Then, our decision stands. Your claim is denied." Daniel felt like punching a wall. This wasn't just miscommunication. This was deliberate. They didn't even want to hear the truth. The shocking phone call that night, as Daniel was cleaning out debris, his phone rang. He answered, expecting a friend or family member, but instead he heard a deep voice say, "Mr. Grant, this is Thomas Reed, Senior Claims Manager with North Shield Insurance. I need to discuss something privately." Daniel's stomach tightened. The man continued, "We reviewed your file again, and we strongly advise you not to pursue external evaluations." Daniel froze. "What does that mean?" Mr. Reed spoke more slowly now, like someone issuing a warning disguised as advice. "Sometimes outside reports complicate matters and claims can end up being formally rejected, permanently." Daniel realized the truth. The insurance company wasn't just denying him. They were trying to silence him. He hung up, shaking with frustration. And in that moment, he made a decision. He would fight. He would expose what they were doing. He would find out why they were trying so hard to avoid the truth. Because something wasn't right, something big, and he was about to uncover it. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the insurance manager's words repeating like echoes in a dark room. "We strongly advise you not to pursue external evaluations." Why would they say that? Why would a legitimate insurance company be afraid of an engineer's report? By morning, Daniel's worry had transformed into determination. He wasn't just protecting his house anymore, he was protecting his rights. The lawyer Daniel went to see a lawyer recommended by a coworker, Alicia Mercer, sharp-tongued, analytical, and known for fighting cases nobody else would touch. She listened to everything: the collapse, the defect in the pipe, the neighbor's story, the insurance company's threats. Alicia leaned back, tapping her pen. "This is bigger than a simple denial," she said. "Insurance companies deny claims all the time, but the warning call, that's unusual." Daniel nodded. "They sounded scared, like they didn't want me to dig deeper." Alicia stood up and paced the room. "There's something they haven't told you," she said. "Let me guess, the plumbing in your neighborhood was installed by the same contractor." Daniel looked confused. "Yes, a big home-building company. Why?" A slow smile appeared on Alicia's face. Because I've handled 3 cases this year involving the same builder. And all of them had defective piping. Daniel's heart raced. So this is a pattern? A pattern, Alicia said, that insurance companies don't want made public. If your case is approved, it sets a precedent. That means dozens, maybe hundreds of homeowners could file similar claims. Daniel sat back, stunned. This wasn't just about his home. It was about millions of dollars the insurance company was trying to avoid paying. Alicia continued, "We're going to file a formal appeal and will demand access to their internal investigation records. Trust me, they'll panic." For the first time since the collapse, Daniel felt like he had someone on his side. The second inspection, Alicia scheduled a legal inspection, requiring the insurance company to send a senior adjuster for an in-person review. This time it wasn't Collins. It was Mr. Reed, the same man who made the threatening call. He arrived with a stiff posture, a forced smile, and 2 assistants carrying laptops. Daniel watched from the yard as Reed inspected the damaged walls, but something felt off. Reed and one of his assistants whispered quietly, glancing around to make sure Daniel couldn't hear. At one point, Reed kneeled near the broken pipe, examined it for 2 seconds, and said, "Corrosion due to long-term exposure, homeowner responsibility." Alicia stepped forward immediately. "Where is your evidence for that conclusion?" she asked sternly. Reed didn't look at her. "It's standard assessment." "No," she snapped. "That's an assumption, and assumptions won't hold up in court." Reed finally met her gaze, cold, annoyed. "This property was not properly maintained." Alicia laughed just once, a sharp sound. "Mr. Reed, the corrosion started inside the pipe, impossible to see without tearing the walls, which homeowners are not expected to do." Reed's jaw tightened. He knew she was right, and he hated it. The discovery later, as Alicia and Daniel reviewed the site alone, she found something half buried under drywall, a sealed plastic envelope filled with old maintenance notes left behind by the previous owners. Inside it, one page made Daniel's stomach flip. "Master bathroom leak, plumber said pipe corrosion from installation. Recommended full pipe replacement. Homeowners declined due to cost." Daniel's hands were shaking. They knew. The previous owners knew. They hid everything. Alicia lifted the page carefully. "This changes everything," she said, but Daniel wasn't relieved. He was furious, because this meant his collapse was preventable. His family's trauma wasn't an accident. This was someone else's negligence covered up. The insurance company's fear. That night, Daniel received another call from Mr. Reed. "Mr. Grant," Reed began, sounding tense, "we want to offer you a settlement quietly off the record." Daniel's eyes widened. A settlement, suddenly. He didn't speak. Reed continued, "We will give you $18,000 if you agree to withdraw your appeal." Daniel almost laughed. His repair estimate was over $160,000. "Why would I accept that?" Daniel asked. Reed's voice lowered. "Because if this escalates, your premiums will rise. You could lose coverage entirely." It was a threat, a desperate one. Daniel's voice was calm, but inside he was boiling. "I have a lawyer now," he said coldly. "From now on, speak to her." He hung up, and for the first time, Reed didn't call back. The turning point the next morning, Alicia reviewed the settlement offer and shook her head. "This proves we're right," she said. "They wouldn't offer anything unless they were scared." Daniel felt a heaviness lift from his chest. He wasn't imagining it. He wasn't powerless. He wasn't alone anymore. But Alicia warned him, "This fight is just beginning. Insurance companies play dirty. They'll try every tactic to pressure you, but we're not backing down." Daniel nodded. He was ready because now it wasn't just about rebuilding his home. It was about justice. It was about exposing the truth. It was about standing up to a system designed to break people like him. A week after the settlement offer, Daniel felt something shift in the air. The insurance company had gone silent, too silent. Whenever big corporations go quiet, it means they're not done their planning. Alicia, the lawyer, seemed to sense it too. She began filing requests for discovery, demanding access to all internal documents related to Daniel's claim, the piping system in his neighborhood, and past complaints. The insurance company resisted hard. They delayed. They sent incomplete files. They pretended documents didn't exist, but Alicia was relentless. And finally, after multiple legal demands, they were forced to release a set of internal investigation logs. What Alicia found made her face go pale. The red marker, the documents were scanned printouts, heavily redacted. Entire paragraphs were blacked out, but one file stood out. A page titled, "Risk Projection Region 7 Housing Pipe Defect." Daniel leaned closer as Alicia read aloud. "Due to defective copper piping installed in 2012-2014 builds, there is a projected increase in claims involving water damage, corrosion, and structural failure." Daniel's eyes widened. The insurance company knew about the defective pipes. Alicia kept reading. "Recommending strategy. Deny when possible under maintenance failure. Avoid replacement costs, reject long-term leakage claims, issue settlements only when cost-effective. Daniel felt sick. This wasn't negligence, this was a playbook, a step-by-step strategy telling adjusters exactly how to deny claims like his. Alicia turned to him. They've been doing this for years. Daniel clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. All this time they knew, and they still blamed me. Alicia tapped the last paragraph with her pen. And look here, your neighborhood is listed as a high-risk area. They expected leaks, they expected collapses, and they plan to deny every one of them. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just about money. It was about a system created to prevent homeowners from getting help. We can destroy them with this, Alicia said quietly. This document proves deliberate denial. Daniel breathed out slowly. For the first time, he felt something close to power. The anonymous email that night, something even stranger happened. At 11:46 p.m., Daniel received an email from an unknown sender. No subject line, no signature, just a message. Be careful, they're watching your house. Don't meet with their adjusters alone. They don't want this to go public. Daniel stared at the screen, watching his house. Another email followed seconds later. Check behind the water heater, you'll understand. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and went to the basement. The air smelled old, damp, metallic. Behind the water heater was a narrow space filled with insulation and pipes. He moved the insulation aside and froze. There was a small black device attached to the wall, a listening device, a mic. Someone had been recording him. His hands shook as he backed away. Someone was spying in his own home. He called Alicia immediately. When she arrived, she inspected the device and whispered, "This is corporate grade, not cheap." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Are you saying the insurance company planted this?" Alicia didn't answer directly, but her expression told him everything. "Daniel, this case might be bigger than we thought." Corporate counterattack. The next morning, the insurance company struck hard. Daniel received a letter titled, "Notice of Fraud Investigation." They were accusing him of filing a fraudulent claim, the same strategy insurance companies use to scare homeowners into dropping disputes. Reed, the senior claims manager, called moments later. His voice was ice. "Mr. Grant, your case is now under formal review for potential misrepresentation. If we find discrepancies, you may face legal consequences." Daniel felt his throat close. "They're trying to crush you," Alicia said after he forwarded her the letter. "It's intimidation, not real." But fear settled inside him anyway. "What do I do?" Alicia placed a hand on his shoulder. "You keep fighting. Because now they're the ones who look guilty." She was right. Only guilty people plant listening devices. Only guilty people create secret denial playbooks. Only guilty people threaten homeowners who expose them. Daniel took a deep breath. He would not break. He would not stop. 3 days later, Daniel sat in the temporary apartment his family had been moved into. His kids slept on inflatable mattresses in the bedroom while he paced the living room, replaying every phone call, document, and threat. He felt trapped, like he was fighting a giant with his bare hands. Then the doorbell rang. It was nearly midnight. Daniel hesitated before opening it. A man stood outside, mid-40s, nervous, wearing a faded jacket. He kept glancing over his shoulder like he was afraid someone followed him. "Mr. Grant?" the man asked. "Yes. I think I have something you need." Before Daniel could respond, the man stepped inside quickly. "My name is Lucas Hale," he said. "I used to work for North Shield Insurance." Daniel's eyebrows rose. A former employee. Lucas swallowed hard. "I was an adjuster for 7 years. I quit last month." "Why?" Lucas looked down at his hands, voice shaking. "Because I couldn't take it anymore. The lies, the tactics, the way we were trained to deny legitimate claims." Daniel sat silently, heart pounding. Lucas continued. "I heard about your case in the office. They talked about it. Reed said, and I quote, 'We can't approve this one. If we do, the whole neighborhood will file claims.'" Daniel felt rage explode through him. "They openly said that?" he demanded. Lucas nodded. "And there's more." He pulled out a flash drive. "This contains internal recordings, meetings, training sessions, denial scripts, everything they never want the public to hear." Daniel stared at the drive like it was a piece of gold. "What made you come forward?" Daniel asked quietly. Lucas's eyes glistened. "My brother's house collapsed last year. Same defective pipes. They denied him too. He went bankrupt trying to fix it. He didn't make it." Daniel's breath caught. "What do you mean he didn't make it?" Lucas's voice broke. "He lost everything. He fell into depression. He couldn't finish." Daniel placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "I'm sorry," he said softly. Lucas wiped his eyes. "I won't let it happen to anyone else, not again." The recordings. The next morning, Daniel and Alicia sat together as Lucas played the recordings. The room filled with the voices of insurance executives. "If it's corrosion, deny it. If there's any water damage, call it maintenance failure. Avoid sudden incident classification, too costly. Do not approve claims from Region 7, high risk, too many defective pipes. We can fight homeowners, most can't afford lawyers. People don't know their rights. Use that. Daniel's jaw tightened with every sentence. This wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. Alicia stopped the recording and looked at Daniel. We have enough to bury them. Daniel exhaled shakily. For the first time in weeks, he felt hope, not weak or fragile, but strong and rising. Let's take them down, he said. Alicia nodded. It's time. A public battle begins. Alicia began preparing a massive legal complaint. She contacted journalists, consumer protection agencies, regulatory bodies. Lucas agreed to testify anonymously. Daniel felt the pressure mounting, but in a good way. For the first time, the insurance company was afraid of him, but they were not done. Because the moment Alicia filed the lawsuit, Daniel received a message that chilled his blood, a picture of his children walking to school, captioned, "Stop your case, Daniel, or things get messy." The message sat on Daniel's phone like a piece of ice lodged in his chest. A blurry picture of his two children walking toward school, backpacks bouncing gently on their shoulders, completely unaware. And beneath it, a simple line that could shatter any parent. "Stop your case, Daniel, or things get messy." His hands trembled so violently that he nearly dropped the phone. Fear, pure primal fear. He immediately called Alicia. She arrived within 20 minutes, her face pale and serious. She stared at the message for a long moment before speaking. Daniel. This isn't normal corporate intimidation. Someone is crossing a line. Daniel's voice cracked. My kids, they're threatening my kids. Alicia knelt in front of him. They want you scared, they want you to think you're powerless, but listen to me, this message proves they're desperate. Daniel shook his head violently. I can't risk my children's safety, I can't. Alicia placed a steady hand on his shoulder. We will involve law enforcement, they won't get away with this. The police report within an hour, 2 officers arrived. They listened carefully, took photos of the message, and documented everything. But then came the words Daniel dreaded. There's no proof tying this message to the insurance company. Daniel clenched his jaw. But who else would do this? Who else has a reason to threaten me? The officers exchanged uneasy glances. We'll investigate, one said. But until we know more, consider keeping your children out of school for a few days, for safety. Daniel felt his heart twist painfully. His kids, innocent, cheerful, trusting, now at the center of a corporate war. He promised himself right then, no matter what, he would protect them, at all costs. Lucas reveals the dark secret that night. Lucas, the former insurance adjuster and whistleblower, came over with a grim look on his face. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Something I didn't say before. Alicia crossed her arms. What now? Lucas swallowed hard. There's a division inside North Shield. It's unofficial, but everyone knows it exists. They call it the retention unit. Their job is to discourage homeowners from pursuing claims. Daniel froze. What do you mean discourage? Like deny claims? Lucas shook his head. No, I mean scare them, intimidate them, make them drop their cases voluntarily. Alicia stepped forward sharply. Are you saying they threaten people? Lucas hesitated, then nodded slowly. There were rumors. Cases where homeowners backed out suddenly. Some got harassed. Some received anonymous calls. Some even had property damage, and no one ever traced it back. Daniel's blood ran cold. So they're doing this to me now? Lucas looked down. I think you're closer to exposing them than anyone before, and that makes you dangerous to them. Daniel felt a wave of dread wash over him, not for himself, for his children. Alicia's plan the next morning. Alicia called Daniel and Lucas into her office. Her face was focused, almost fierce. We're turning this around, she announced. We're filing a motion for immediate protective order. Once approved, North Shield or any of its employees will be legally forbidden from contacting you or approaching your family. Daniel exhaled shakily. Will they follow it? They have no choice, Alicia replied. If they break it, it becomes a criminal offense, and trust me, corporations hate criminal charges. She then pulled out a folder. And there's more. I contacted a major investigative journalist. She wants to interview you. Daniel's eyes widened. Me, Alicia nodded. This story isn't just legal, it's moral. Public pressure is a powerful weapon. If the world sees what's happening to you, they won't be able to hide. Daniel hesitated. What if that makes them target me more? Alicia leaned forward. Bullies operate in the shadows. You shine a light, they run. Daniel slowly nodded. He was tired of living in fear. It was time to fight back. The interview that changed everything. The journalist arrived the next day, a woman named Rachel Pierce, known for exposing corporate corruption. She listened to Daniel's entire story. She reviewed the recordings. She photographed the collapsed house. She even studied the threat message. Her face darkened with every detail. This is bigger than insurance fraud, she said finally. This is organized corruption. Daniel swallowed. Will you publish it? Rachel smiled grimly. Oh, I'm not just publishing it. I'm making it front-page news. That night, Daniel sat with his children in the apartment living room. For the first time in weeks, he felt hope flickering, still fragile but alive. He tucked them into bed and whispered, I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts us again. But as he walked back to the living room, a shadow passed by the window, just a quick flicker, but enough to send a jolt through him. Someone was outside, watching, waiting, and the real battle was just beginning. The next night was unusually quiet, too quiet. Daniel sat in the temporary apartment's living room, unable to sleep. His kids were asleep in the bedroom, and the apartment lights were dim. He kept replaying Rachel's words in his head. This story will go public soon. Every hour that passed felt heavier, like something was coming. The glass shatters at 2:12 a.m. The silence broke with a violent crash. Glass exploded inward from the balcony door. Daniel jumped to his feet. His heart slammed against his ribs as he saw a dark figure climbing through the shattered doorway, face hidden, footsteps heavy. Someone was inside the apartment. For a split second, fear paralyzed him, then instinct kicked in. He grabbed a lamp and rushed toward the hallway, yelling, "Stay away from MYKIDS!" The intruder froze, surprised that Daniel confronted him so quickly. But then, instead of attacking, the man bolted toward the door and vanished into the night. Daniel chased after him, but by the time he reached the hallway outside, the intruder was gone, completely, as if he had disappeared into thin air. Police arrive, and something doesn't add up. Police flooded the apartment within 10 minutes. They inspected the broken glass, took Daniel's statement, and secured the area, but something felt off. One of the officers, a stern-looking man with a clipped tone, asked questions that didn't make sense. "Are you sure you didn't stage this?" Daniel stared at him. "What? Why would I ever?" The officer held up a hand, expression cold. "We've seen people do drastic things during legal disputes." "Insurance fraud is a serious matter." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Are you saying I did this myself?" The officer shrugged. "We'll investigate. For now, don't jump to conclusions about who did it." Alicia arrived soon after, furious. "This was not random," she snapped at the officer. "You have a picture of his children being followed. You know he's in the middle of a corporate battle." The officer remained unmoved. "We'll look into it." But his cold, uninterested tone sent a chill down Daniel's spine. It was almost like he didn't want the case solved. A message on the wall. Once the police left, Alicia and Daniel began cleaning the broken glass. That's when Daniel noticed something scratched into the wall near the balcony door. A message carved with a knife. "Drop the case." Alicia's face went white. "This is proof," she whispered. "Proof of intimidation. They crossed the line again." Daniel sank onto the couch, rubbing his face with both hands. "How far will they go? I can't keep my children in danger." Alicia placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "We're filing for emergency custody protection and moving you all to a safe location. They won't get near your family again." Daniel nodded weakly. He felt drained, broken, but not defeated, not yet. The safe house the next day, Alicia arranged for Daniel and his children to relocate to a secure home provided by a victim protection program. It was a small cabin outside the city, quiet and surrounded by tall trees. Armed patrol cars circled the area every few hours. For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt a small sense of safety. His kids played inside while he stood outside on the porch, breathing in the cold air. Lucas arrived with new information. "I talked to someone still inside North Shield," Lucas said. "Reed is panicking. After your story goes public, the company could lose millions, maybe more." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "So why break into my place? Why threaten me?" Lucas sighed heavily. "Because if you back out, they win. If you go public, they lose." Daniel stared at the trees, silent. Lucas stepped closer. "They're afraid of you, Daniel. You're just one man, but you have something powerful, the truth." The public eruption. 2 days later, Rachel's investigation went live. A full front-page exposé. Insurance giant accused of threatening homeowners, denying valid claims. Daniel's story was featured prominently. The recordings, the leaked documents, the whistleblower testimony. Social media exploded instantly. Thousands of comments, demands for accountability, calls for an investigation. News stations picked up the story within hours. North Shield issued a statement denying everything, but the internet wasn't buying it. Daniel watched the chaos unfold on TV, holding his daughter's hand. For the first time, he felt the weight shift. The public was on his side, the truth was out, and North Shield could no longer hide. But the war wasn't over. Later that night, Alicia got a call. She stepped outside to take it. When she came back in, her expression was grim. "What is it?" Daniel asked. Alicia took a deep breath. "North Shield hired a high-powered legal team. They filed a counterclaim against you." Daniel's stomach dropped. "For what?" Alicia exhaled slowly. "For defamation and breach of contract and exposing confidential documents." Daniel felt the room spin. "What does that mean for me?" Alicia looked him straight in the eyes. "It means Part 8 will be the biggest battle of your life." The world around Daniel had changed overnight. Reporters camped outside the insurance company's headquarters. Customers were canceling policies in outrage. Politicians were calling for investigations. But while the world seemed to support him, Daniel felt far from safe. because North Shield Insurance had fired back with a lawsuit designed to crush him. Alicia called an emergency meeting in the safe house. Her face was serious, more serious than Daniel had ever seen. "They've hired the most aggressive corporate lawyers in the country," she began. "Their goal is simple: paint you as a liar." Daniel swallowed hard. "But the public supports me," he said. Alicia nodded. "Public pressure helps, but the courtroom is different. Judges don't care about comments or likes, they care about evidence." Lucas, the whistleblower, sat beside Daniel. His knee bounced nervously. "They're scared," Lucas said. "Really scared. When they'll lose billions." Daniel took a deep breath. "Then we fight." Alicia smiled faintly. "That's exactly what we're going to do." The courthouse was packed. Journalists lined the hallways. Camera flashes lit every corner. Daniel felt his stomach twist as he stepped inside. Despite the security guarding the safe house, being in public again terrified him. But Alicia walked beside him like a shield. When they entered the courtroom, the opposing lawyers were already seated, 3 of them. Sharp suits, expressions like stone, cold eyes that followed Daniel with disdain. In the center sat Thomas Reed, the senior claims manager who had threatened Daniel privately. He didn't look nervous. He looked angry, as if Daniel had ruined his life. The first strike North Shield's lead attorney, a tall, silver-haired man named William Drayton, opened with venom. "Ladies and gentlemen of the court, Mr. Grant is exploiting a tragedy for financial gain. He destroyed evidence, staged threats, and manipulated the media." Daniel's jaw tightened. "He claims a conspiracy," Drayton continued, "yet provides nothing but questionable recordings from a disgruntled former employee." Lucas looked down, pain flickering in his eyes. Drayton finished with a cold smirk. "We ask the court to dismiss his claims entirely." Alicia stood slowly, calm and confident. "Your Honor," she said, "we will show that Mr. Grant is the victim of a deliberate, systematic effort to deny legitimate claims. We will prove intimidation, fraud, and cover-ups." The judge nodded. "Proceed." The war began. Lucas takes the stand. Lucas was the first witness. His voice shook at first, but he grew stronger as he spoke. "I worked for North Shield for years. We were told to deny claims from Daniel's region. We were taught to label everything as maintenance failure. We were trained to intimidate." Drayton jumped up. "Objection, hearsay," Alicia fired back. "These are direct statements from corporate training sessions, and we have the recordings to prove it." The judge nodded. "Objection overruled. Continue." Lucas explained the secret denial playbooks, the internal memos, the corrupt culture. He exposed everything, but Drayton wasn't done. When he cross-examined Lucas, he leaned forward with a cruel smile. "You left the company in disgrace, didn't you?" Lucas froze. "You were fired for misconduct," Drayton said. "Isn't that true?" Lucas's face drained of color. Daniel whispered urgently, "What's he talking about?" Alicia clenched her jaw. "Nothing that destroys the case," she murmured. Drayton continued aggressively. "You expect the court to trust you, a man who couldn't even keep his job." Lucas looked crushed, but then he lifted his head and said, "I didn't keep my job because I refused to lie anymore." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Drayton didn't like that answer, but the damage was done. Lucas had taken heavy hits, yet his truth stood strong. Daniel takes the stand. When Daniel approached the witness stand, his heart hammered in his chest. Drayton began immediately. "You claim your house collapsed from a sudden leak, yet you saw signs for months, didn't you?" Daniel kept his voice steady. "I saw a small damp spot, nothing that suggested the house was rotting from the inside." Drayton smirked. "So you ignored it?" Daniel stared straight at him. "No, I didn't know it was dangerous, and the leak was caused by a defective pipe, something invisible." Drayton paced. "And the threats, the break-in, you're saying our company did that?" Daniel hesitated. "We can't prove the individuals, but everything started when I challenged the denial." Drayton seized the hesitation. "No evidence, no names, just speculation." Daniel clenched his fists, fighting the urge to shout. Alicia leaned in when her turn came. "Daniel, tell the court why your home collapsed." Daniel looked at the judge. "Because the pipes were defective, because the previous owners hid it, because the insurance company knew this defect existed and decided to deny every claim related to it." Alicia nodded. "And why are you here today?" Daniel's eyes filled. "For my kids," he said, "for the truth, and for every homeowner they tried to intimidate." The courtroom fell silent. For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt strong. The smoking gun. Just when the day seemed done, Alicia presented something new. A document marked, "Internal, do not release." She laid it on the judge's bench. "This," she said, "is the unredacted version of the risk projection North Shield hid." Gasps spread through the courtroom. The full document revealed knowledge of defective pipes, instruction to deny all claims, strategy to intimidate homeowners, and a signature at the bottom. Thomas Reed. Reed's face turned white. The judge looked furious. Drayton scrambled to object, but it was too late. The bomb had exploded. Court was adjourned for the day. Outside, reporters swarmed. Inside, Reed panicked, and Daniel finally felt the scales tipping. But the war wasn't over. Part 9 would bring the final blow, the verdict, the fallout, and the justice Daniel had fought so hard for. The next morning, Daniel woke in the safe house to the sound of birds outside. For the first time in a long while, he felt calm. Today was the final day in court. Today, everything would change. His children hugged him before he left. "Daddy, will we get our house back?" his youngest asked. Daniel knelt, kissed her forehead, and said, "We're going to be okay, I promise." Even if he didn't know how yet, he believed it. The final showdown, the courtroom was full again. Reed and Drayton sat stiffly, whispering furiously. Their faces were tight, nervous. Alicia stood with quiet confidence. When the judge entered, the tension became suffocating. "We have reviewed both sides," the judge said. "The evidence is overwhelming." Daniel held his breath. Alicia squeezed his shoulder. Reed stared straight ahead, refusing to move. The judge continued, "There is a clear pattern of intentional claim denial, intimidation, concealment of known defects, and unethical conduct." Whispers erupted in the room. Northshield's lawyers stiffened. The judge wasn't finished. "Furthermore, the court is disturbed by the actions taken to silence Mr. Grant and others. Such behavior has no place in this industry." Daniel felt his eyes sting. Was this really happening? The judge lifted a sheet of paper. "Effective immediately, Northshield Insurance is ordered to fully compensate Mr. Grant for all damages, pay punitive damages, cover legal fees, and submit to a federal investigation." Gasps exploded. Reporters scribbled wildly. Reed's jaw dropped. But then came the moment Daniel would never forget. And finally, "This court recommends criminal charges against individuals who participated in acts of intimidation, fraud, and evidence suppression." All eyes turned to Reed. His face collapsed. Daniel stared at him, not with satisfaction, but with relief. The man who tried to destroy his life would finally answer for his crimes. Public reaction within hours, the verdict made national headlines. "Insurance fraud exposed. Whistleblower saves homeowner. Federal agents raid Northshield headquarters." Daniel became a symbol of courage. People sent messages of support from across the country. Hundreds of homeowners came forward with similar stories. Lucas, who once trembled with guilt, became a hero for exposing the truth. And Alicia, she became known as the lawyer who single-handedly shook the insurance industry. Rebuilding home a month later, Daniel stood on his property. Construction crews were already clearing the debris. Insurance money, now released legally, covered everything. A new foundation was being poured. His children ran around the yard, laughing again. Lucas visited, smiling widely. "You did it, Daniel," he said. Daniel shook his head. "No, we did it. You, Alicia, the journalist, everyone who stood up." Lucas nodded, emotion in his voice. "My brother would have been proud." Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. "He didn't deserve what happened. Because of him, hundreds of families will be protected now." Lucas wiped his eyes and nodded. Alicia's visit later that afternoon, Alicia arrived with paperwork, but she wasn't her usual fierce self. She smiled, really smiled for the first time. "How does it feel?" she asked. Daniel looked at the land, the workers, the rising structure. "It feels like breathing again." Alicia handed him one last document. "This makes your case historical," she said. "Your battle changed the law. New protections will be implemented for homeowners nationwide." Daniel's throat tightened. He never imagined his nightmare would spark change, but it did. The moment of peace that evening, after everyone left, Daniel stood alone on the property. Sunset painted the sky orange and gold. For the first time since the collapse, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't running. He was finally standing on ground that was his again, safe, secure, and full of hope. He whispered, "We're home." And in that moment, the nightmare that tried to break him became the story that rebuilt everything.